Usually we should have background music.
All right, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to all of our attendees tuning in from around the world. Today's Zoomcast of Invisible Women in Sport is an Institute for Sport and Social Justice production. I'm your producer, Garnett Overby. All guests will be muted during this production, but I encourage you to use the chat feature to ask questions or leave a comment. We will reserve time near the end to answer a few questions. So without further ado, I would like to welcome our host, Tolulope Amakore.
Wow. Yeah. I know y'all probably clapping. It's okay. It's okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome to episode 11 of Invisible Women in Sports. Wow. I'm just still shocked. Episode 11 already. But I am your host, Tolulope Amakore. Today, I am joined by Latrice Sales, Director of the JJK Winning in Life programs with Jackie Joyner Kersee Foundation in East St. Louis, Illinois. Welcome so much, Latrice.
Thank you. Thank you.
And that video that we played before, you know, it used to have background music. So that's probably why y'all probably was looking like, why is she humming? But yes, that's my Beyonce hum. That's my Beyonce hum. So let's get into it. So last episode, we did a little session of rapid fire, so I'm bringing it back for you.
Right.
So I'm going to ask you some few questions, and you got to answer it as fast as you can. No thinking about it, no hesitation. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right. We starting in 3, 2, 1. Basketball or football?
Football.
Push-ups or pull-ups?
Push-ups.
Apples or oranges?
Oranges.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
3 words.
Let's go. Let's go.
Strong.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Dedicated, focused, strong.
Good. Indoor or outdoor?
Outdoor.
Strawberries or grapes?
Strawberries.
How many keys do you have in your key ring?
4.
Protein shake or smoothies?
Smoothies.
Treadmills or bike?
Ooh.
Come on.
Bike.
Taurus or Virgo?
Virgo.
All right, I said that over there because you just had a birthday, which I saw. Happy belated birthday.
Thank you.
I had to put that in there. But those were the questions. You okay? That was pretty good. You took a little bit of time, and some of the questions.
I'm a runner, so I'm like treadmill or bike. But
that's why I was like, yeah.
So I'm like, I don't know.
You said treadmill? No,
I said bike.
Okay, yeah, bike. Yeah,
I'd rather run outside. So
yeah. Treadmills, they make me dizzy just being in one. I don't know. That's for me. That's just me. All right. Speaking of treadmills and bikes, let's get into it. First topic is fitness. So,
okay.
Latrice, you have over 15 years of experience as a sport, physical education, and physical activity. You're an advocate for that. So, with that saying, how do you stay motivated when you're dealing with fitness? Because it's hard. It's definitely hard. And that's everybody's New Year resolution. You know, you go for 1 week and then you stop. I'm guilty. But how do you stay motivated?
I try to get on somewhat of a routine, and that helps me to kind of stay motivated. But I have, my watch, a fitness watch.
Okay.
And so that kind of helps because it'll be real rude. Because I use like the Nike Plus running app, and it'll be like, are we running today? Like, can you mind your business? What? Or, it'll say, you usually farther along by now. Like, check your rings. Like, get up and move. Wow, that is not why I have it. But I also appreciate that kind of helps when I'm, it helps to like remind me that I'm not as active as I have been. So
right.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah, it seems like your twin that you was telling me about, Latrice Sales, he's on here as well. So he said, go twin. So moving on to the next question. You was one of the panelists of National Girls and Women in Sports Day. And this is the shirt that I'm wearing now because I was on one of the panelists as well at UCF. So we actually have a picture that, we wanted to pull up, and you can go ahead and So yeah, there you go. Beautiful smile on this panel. So with that saying, how was your experience during this panel?
It was really good. And so we, in the Jackie Joyner Kersee Foundation, the center is in East St. Louis, Illinois. So we worked with the school district, District 189, to get girls from all over the school district who participate in sports. And so they all came to the center. The school district provided the buses. We had lunch. And it just became this really good, empowering moment for girls, a celebration of girls. How are you using sport for good was the theme for the day, and it was just really fun. And so East St. Louis is about 97% Black. So even though we kind of didn't plan it this way, it became this really celebration of Black women in sport, which was amazing. And so some of the other panelists was Dr. Carla Lewis. She's a local dentist, and so Black women in dentistry in the area. Kayla Collier, she is the owner of the St. Louis Surge. It's a pro women's basketball team.
Okay.
She's awesome. And then Dawn Harper Nelson, she's like right next to me in the picture. And that's Kayla to the right of her. She's from East St. Louis as well, and she's a 2-time Olympic medalist, gold medal in the hurdles.
Wow.
She's training to compete again in Tokyo next summer. And then we also had Dorianne Johnson, who is the athletic director at Harris Stowe State University, is the HBCU in St. Louis. So, so we had, and of course, let me not forget our MC, Joyner Kersee, herself was there kind of moderating the panel. And so it was a really good event. Able to kind of just celebrate, women in sport, and it was just a great place for like girls to kind of just be there and have fun. Like we had a DJ, so we were kind of dancing a little bit at the beginning. We had lunch, and then they went home for the day. So it was a really good event, empowering women in sport.
Wow. Well, I wish I was on that panel to hear you. I mean, I wish I was there to hear y'all speak. But like I said, I was one of the panelists as well. They try to bring some female athletes to go ahead and just talk about their experience, and I was one of them. So one of the questions they had asked me was, who do I look up to? Who's your influence? And I was like, you know what? Serena Williams. Serena Williams is who I look up to, especially, with her body. She's strong. She's fit. And I was just like, I didn't really used to like my arms at first because I was really strong. But now, I should.
Yeah, you see that out here.
I'm a little cut. I know some people probably jealous. It's okay. It's okay, you guys. It's okay. So with that saying, who is one of your influences?
I mean, it may sound cliche because I work there now, but I mean, Jackie Joyner Kersee. I grew up watching her. I specifically remember the 96 Olympics, which was her last Olympic Games, and just watching her try to, kind of drop out of the heptathlon and do the long jump, and I just remember every jump, like she's just, the leg wrap, everything, like just this is such an amazing thing. And so, so just watching her growing up, and I just remember, I'm from Charleston, South Carolina, and that 96 Olympics was in Atlanta, and I just remember being upset with my parents because I'm just like, it's 4 or 5 hour drive, like I don't understand why we're not going, like I want to be there. But watching her, and then now like Serena Williams, I mean, she's the background image on my computer. And so, just all the different struggles that like Black women experience, in sport and everywhere else. And I think these two women did a really good job of kind of still embracing their strengths and kind of blocking out the haters, addressing things when necessary, because you can't just, turn the other cheek every time. You only have two. Okay. So, that's right. And I think they were positive examples of how like you can endure and be strong, and also be gentle. Like, in Jackie's book, A Kind of Grace, like that is a kind of grace to be strong and powerful and enduring.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that experience. So now let's move on to the next topic, education. And when I was reading your bio, I'm like, wow, she's amazing. So again, you have such an amazing bio when it comes to education, and it seems very important to you. So you've earned your undergraduate degree at Coastal Carolina University, and where you majored in health promotion and business management. So while you were an undergrad, you competed on the women's track and field team. So with that saying, what was your favorite event?
My favorite event is the 4x1. Yeah.
4x1?
My favorite. It's, it's always fun, I was second leg. Sometimes I was anchor leg, depending on who we were running against. Because my coach always felt like you put the fastest person on second.
Okay.
People will stack it depending on you may put your fastest person at the end, depending on who you're running against. But it was awesome, so always loved it. Everyone loved watching it. And then also my other favorite was, so we would go indoor at Clemson University. And so they're, Little John Arena, they had a track up there somehow, and it was 300 meters. And so they would run a 300,
wow.
2 or a 4. And I loved running that 3. So, because I had kind of had this endurance to run it like a 200 and not die in the last. But it didn't take the same, so it was really fun to kind of run that race.
What was your fastest time?
In like in the 3?
Yeah, or yeah.
I actually don't remember. My fastest 100 was at 11.7. I do remember that, but
wow.
Yeah. Usually in track we don't talk about our time.
Well, I didn't know. One of our workouts, we had the, condition. The coach had us on the track 6 a.m. in the morning running a mile, but she said that because she says, that's that mental toughness, because it's like, I'm like, Coach, we're not track runners. Why you got us on this track? Like, what are we doing? But she's like, she does that because it's mental, and I see it. It's tough.
Yes.
It's tough. I'm gonna throw my time out there. I had a 6:29.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. 6-minute miles a year.
That's when my knees was good before the ACL, but we're not gonna talk about that. Next question. So moving on, you've earned your master's degree in kinesiology at Southern University, and you had some research there. You focused on reducing childhood obesity and improving fitness in the after-school setting. Could you please let us know, how did that research go, and what inspired you to get through in that subject?
Yeah, so Georgia Southern is in Statesboro, Georgia, and at the time, that city, the county, Bullitt County, had the highest rate of childhood obesity in the state, in a state that already has a high rate of obesity.
Wow.
So it was kind of a partnership with the university and the Boys and Girls Club of Bullitt County there, and they really wanted to kind of do some kind of programming that would help get kids more active.
Okay.
At the time, the schools weren't really offering regular PE. Like, you would maybe get PE one semester every other year. It just wasn't a focus. And so what I ended up doing as part of my graduate assistantship is either do this or teach bowling. And so I'm glad that I was like, oh, this is what I'm going to do with kids. So at that club, they had kids of all ages, because there was a teen center as well. So K through 12. So I basically taught PE at the club. And then I also, and as a graduate student, I taught a class and I taught others to teach PE in these settings, because I think in the after school setting, it can really help supplement what the school is or isn't doing or isn't able to do. And so, because sometimes I think we put way, way too much on schools to try to do, and there's different ways that we can help in other settings. And so I've always kind of been focused on after school programs and community centers, that kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. And so what I did find from that is that, it was a specific program curriculum. I was looking to see if it improved fitness, and it didn't necessarily improve, levels of fitness, but it did improve health. Because kids were active regularly, and that's really what was important, is that getting kids active multiple days a week, meeting the guidelines, CDC guidelines on physical activity, which was really important. And then another thing that it was kind of a finding that I wrote in the discussion that wasn't necessarily related to health, is just that, because it's a rural area, it's a lot of Black and brown kids that came to the club, that people want to come in and do research or do some kind of program, and then they leave. And it's just like, if you're going to be doing work with these kids, you need to stay. Like,
that's right.
You can't just do research and then bounce and just be like, all right, I'm graduating, or I got, I fulfilled whatever for the grant, that sort of thing. And so
right.
I put that in there, that these populations tend to be really exploited in a lot of ways. And so it's just like, hey, if you're not going to do some kind of leave behind or some kind of thing that is for this, they can benefit for longer than the terms of your research study, then we don't need it. We don't need
right.
it.
Right. So speaking of PE or recess too, what was one of your favorite PE recess activities that you like to do?
I loved obstacle courses and kind of like relays. And so you would, do little tires and like maybe have to crab walk or do something else.
Not the crab walk.
I love it.
Wow. Yeah, but me, like I said, kickball was one of them. Kickball was, we was so excited every time we went outside. Followed by, what's it called? Double Dutch. I love the ropes and everything. So next time we do have a relay or anything, I know to call you up, like, Latrice, we got an obstacle course.
I am there. Yeah. As a teacher, I loved like these little scooters. Like, we got this grant from the Atlanta Falcons, and it was like $5,000 to buy equipment. And listen, I was like a kid in the candy store ordering this. Yes. And we'd be racing on these little scooters. My hamstrings would be on fire when I got.
Not the hamstring. Not the hamstring.
That was fun.
It seems like your brother, he said dodgeball all in,
Oh, see?
That sounds like your brother, huh? Yeah. You want to hit people in the face? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So let's move on now. Finally, you're a doctoral candidate at the University of Texas at Austin in the Department of Curriculum and Instruction. So your dissertation research is focused on evaluating the effectiveness of gender equity in sports programs on providing athletics opportunities for Black women and women of color. So like with the same question I asked you before, what inspired you to go into this research? So two different types of research. So what made you, focus on this one? And can you share with us what you found so far?
Okay, yeah. So I really wanted to look at like Black women in sport. And so as a kid, like my parents had us in all kinds of sports. Like we played everything. We we did gymnastics, we did swimming, we did, baseball, softball, track, basketball, everything. I should not touch anybody's basketball, for the record. We did all of these things. And so I was also a swimmer. And so, and was really good. Like my brother and I were really good at it, but it was just such a terrible experience. Like, again, we're in South Carolina, so very known racist town,
right.
The Civil War started there. So, and it was just such a terrible experience because at first they kind of dismissed us like, oh, what are these, two Black kids doing?
Right.
And just thinking, oh, they can't even swim, like all those stereotypes of, but then we actually were pretty good. And then it's just like, oh, well, wait, what's up with that? And so it was just, I just remember it being a really terrible experience. And so I stopped doing that and then started running. I felt like I belonged there in a lot of ways. I also had a really good PE teacher in middle school and high school. He was also the track coach, but he kind of like was encouraging and encouraged me to join the team. And so I did. And that was great, but I felt like, that was the more like culturally acceptable thing to do was to run track, and so I really wanted to look at, and then Simone Manuel wins gold medal in swimming. And then it's just like, wow, like you know, that was like a real like emotional, like pivotal moment, because it's like, well, like that could have been me. And this was 2016, the summer before I started my doctoral program.
Okay.
Too, like the timing of it really impacted what I wanted to research too, because I got to school, grad school, not knowing exactly what I wanted to research. And so really my research focuses on like Black women, women of color being able to participate in whatever sport they want for as long as they want to. And so thinking about different access to sports, all of that. And so with my dissertation research specifically is going to look at gender equity programs. So like Title IX, because they're so focused on gender equity in sport programs are focused on getting more girls participating in sport, opportunities for more girls. But when you have a measure that's just this one thing, we call it a single axis measure of success, well, then you don't focus on the other things. So like if your success is predicated just on a number, then it doesn't matter who those numbers are.
Right.
Be all white women. And then it's like, well, is this program successful? Well, yes, according to what we're measuring, yes, it is successful because more women are participating. But do these programs actually provide opportunities for Black women and women of color? And for the most part, they don't. And because it's not being measured. So really, a lot of the focus will be showing how these programs do or don't provide opportunities for Black women. And I mean, newsflash, they don't. But then kind of changing those, the way that the programs are administered so that you are tracking and making sure to provide opportunities for Black women and women of color. So yeah, that's kind of like a long and short of it, really.
Yeah, no, for sure. Thank you for sharing with us. So I do have a comment here by Meredith Benson. Hey. Thank you for tuning in. She said, I ran track in college, but always wanted to play football. So I took a bunch of my girlfriends and we joined the rugby team. They looked at us crazy until they saw how fast we were and how fast we picked up on the game. They liked winning more than they didn't want us on the team. And you know, thank you for sharing that, Meredith.
Yeah, and I would like, so as part of the research, I'm looking specifically at the NCAA Emerging Sports for Women program, and rugby is an emerging sport, or was an emerging sport, and looking at that program and how it provides opportunities for Black women. And rugby is one of the sports that has more than others. You know, equestrian is a sport on there, triathlon, which has 0 Black women. Wrestling now is going to be an emerging sport that just got voted on most recently.
Wow.
That'll be good to see, you know, as you're rolling that out and getting that into more schools, how are we making sure that Black women and women of color, because specifically Latina women, are underrepresented in everything.
Right.
So like, how are we making sure that we're making room for, as we're providing these opportunities, making room for everyone to be able to participate.
For sure.
For as long as they want to in the sports that they want to.
Exactly. And it seems like you're set to be done May 2021. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, December, you know, 2020.
Well, good luck. Congratulations.
May, so we can say that.
Keep it up. You're amazing. Keep going. Okay, so now let's move on to the last topic about challenges. So from your start of your career to now, have you ever been in a situation where you haven't felt included? If so, what did you do as an individual to feel included?
Wow. So there's a lot of times where that happened. And I think, you know, working in athletics for my whole career, it's tough because, like, you know, it's a very white male dominated industry.
Right.
So there's a lot of times where I would be the only Black person in the room, the only Black woman, or the only Black woman in the room. And so there is a lot of times where they haven't been included, or they just automatically assumed, you know, that I'm an intern or I'm someone.
Right.
I'm just like, well, you know, thanks for thinking that. I remember there's one time I was going to a conference. It was a really large conference for student athletes. And I got there, you know, after the conference started, because that's, you know, that wasn't my business to be there earlier. And so I'm going to the office. We have like a command center in the office of the hotel. And So I'm going to check in with them because my presentation's about an hour, just got off the plane. I'm just like, I don't like traveling like this. And this lady, she was just like, no, what group are you in? And I was like, I'm not in a group, like I'm presenting. And she was like, no, what color team, what group are you in? And I'm like, and so I just walked past the little swim move, like, I don't have time for this. But she really just would not believe that.
Wow.
And it's interesting because when I would tell that story, people would just be like, whatever. She just, like, that's a compliment. She thought you were young enough to be one of the student athletes who were at the
right.
Just like, I get that. And I appreciate that. But that's not what she was doing. She didn't think that I belonged in the place I said I was going to be. And then when I told her 3 different times, she didn't believe me. And I'm like, what she was doing was oppressive. Like, I get, everyone's like, oh, let's take it as a compliment. And it's like, no, these things aren't complimentary. Like, backhanded compliments are not, you don't have to take that. Like, you don't have to accept those things.
Right.
Because, she didn't mean it to be complimentary. She just did not, she refused to believe me. And so there's a couple of different times where things like that have happened. And it's just like, sometimes you just kind of just take it on the chin and move on and just be like, you know what, that's her issue. Like, because how you feel about me is your business. Or like, I love Mariah Carey. So she has in one of her songs, she's like, if they don't love me, let them wonder why. Like, hey, there's greatness here. If you don't love it, I don't know. I don't know what to
That's right.
No.
Keep hitting them with them swim moves.
Right. Like, just I'm out of here. To kind of fix that, because even if I wanted to, I can't change your mind of how you feel about me, or like whatever stereotypes or whatever that you ascribe to me. I can only walk in my truth, who I am. And so so that it happens a lot in this industry, but just know that I'm here. I know that I'm here for a reason, and so I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing.
Right. Thank you for sharing that. I have 2 more questions for you before we move on to the Q&A. So please get your questions ready so Latrice can go ahead and answer those for you. So what you talked about that story. So I'll just ask this question. So what are some other challenges that you face as a Black woman?
I mean, there's a lot. I don't know where you want them to be in. Well, one thing that I'm facing as a PhD student, especially studying Black women in sport, people always want to just be like, oh, well, like Black men too. And she's like, no. I said, or they look, oh, no, you should study women of color. No, I said Black. Because even when you think about it in research, if I'm studying women of color, my lit review is going to be 1,000 pages. I need to narrow it down for the research process. But then also that's what's important to me. And like, that's my researcher positionality. Like, I tell that story in my dissertation about like, this is my position. This is how I got here. This is what I'm using to review this. And so that's something that happens a lot. It's just like, oh, they want you to, it's not okay to just focus on Black women. Like, it has to be this. I'm like, y'all don't say men of color. That's not a common.
That's true.
Why can't we just be, who we are? This is what I'm focusing on.
Right.
So I get that a lot in terms of like, just talking about my research and even studying it. There's, classes, graduate level classes that are on, or even undergraduate classes on Black student athletes or Black athletes. And, there may be only one lecture on Black women. I'm like, so you have this whole class that's 16 weeks about the Black student athlete experience and only one lecture?
Wow.
And then you ask someone else to teach it. So I've been asked to lecture this class a couple of times. It's just like, what?
Wow.
The only on the syllabus, because you always say, check the syllabus. And I'm like, just today. All right. So that's something that like kind of happens. And so I want to do that with my research, just kind of really elevate like yes, we're talking about Black women, and we're not just talking about, you know, Serena Williams, which there needs to be more about her and her experience and other women, because, you know, so sometimes we get like, you know, Black women do well in these sports, but then there aren't people that come after them, and then the next person has to kind of start all over. So, but we're seeing some progress in that regard in tennis, though, with Naomi Osaka and Sloane Stephens and some other women. So
we are.
Coco.
Yeah, we can't forget Coco.
Yes.
Well, thank you for sharing that. My last question before we just move into some Q&A, it seems like those chat box is going. So what advice do you have to all the ladies out there? Hey, ladies. Hey, I see y'all. What are the advice, you know, if some of them are feeling stuck in that position where they are now and not being able to break that glass ceiling? So what's your advice on that?
My advice is, like, you know, to be true to yourself, like to understand that you are here right now for a purpose, for a reason in this time, to try not to worry about, you know, the stereotypes, the things that people are trying to ascribe to you, because sometimes, you know, we get distracted by that. And, you know, maybe you don't want to speak up on something because you might get called the angry Black woman, or, you know, as women, we get called emotional, like, oh, they're just emotional. I'm like, no, is that the word? I mean, is it? Or maybe emotion, but is being emotional even a bad thing? I mean, just because only one knows anger does not mean that these other ones, we are multifaceted. So, like, trying not to get caught up in those different things. And, you know, like, I think it's important to try to find mentors who are doing what you're doing. I think you need 3 different people. You want someone who has done the thing that you want to do, someone who is currently doing what you want to do, because it's really important to network at your level, and then someone who wants to do the thing that you're doing. So you have someone ahead of you, you have people next to you, and then you have people behind you. And so gathering that group is really important, because there's different things that you will learn in talking to those different people. There's different things that you'll learn talking to someone who is in the position that you want. And then there's different things that you'll learn talking to the people who want to be kind of where you are. And then, you know, having someone at your level to work through the stuff with, who are doing it right.
Right.
Important too. So yeah, so that's kind of my advice. Don't get distracted by, you know, racism and anti-feminism and all of those things that try to, like, hold us back, because those things are indeed distractions. And just, you know, trust yourself.
Thank you for sharing that. I really do appreciate it.
Yes.
So now Garnet is going to go ahead and come on and talk about the questions that we have for you.
Latrice, thank you. That was a great piece of advice. Our first question comes from our very own graduate assistant, Olivia Wiggins. She says, first of all, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us today. She was wondering, what is the best piece of advice you've ever received personally? Would you mind sharing it with us?
Oh, the best piece of advice I've received has been kind of to keep going. Things will get rough. Things will be hard, but, like, you know, just keep pushing forward. That was my old volleyball coach in high school, Coach Stanley. She, you know, she was just such an amazing person. And so, you know, I had a lot of challenges just kind of going forward with, you know, where I was going to go to college and different things like that. And so she really was a good person to kind of be able to talk through some of those things with. And that was the advice that she had, was just to, you know, keep going, keep moving.
Wow.
Awesome. The next question comes from Taylor Middleton, another one of our graduate assistants, whom you all are going to become familiar with very soon here in the future. She asked for some advice. What type of advice would you give to young Black girls that are looking to play sports where they're historically underrepresented?
So I guess, well, don't be afraid to join the team and stay on the team. Kind of sharing, because it's kind of tough, because I'm not sure if your question is like once they're already there, or even if they even have access to it, those sports. But to really, if it's a sport that you love, or that you even just remotely interested in, to explore that, give yourself a couple seasons of participating in it to kind of understand it better, and understand if you want to continue. You know, don't quit if you don't want to, but also if it's not fun, if it's harmful, then don't stay either. And then I think also to just kind of talk to the people around you, to kind of share that experience, because maybe there's something that they can do to kind of fight for you and kind of change that experience. Because that's something that I didn't do, I didn't know to do. I don't know how many people knew that I quit because of these reasons. And then maybe if I had talked about it, maybe somebody could have, you know, done something, maybe not, who knows. But I think there are a lot of advocates like myself for sport, youth sport, high school, college sport, who will fight for you to be able to continue. So
thank you very much for that. This question comes from Keith Lee. And Keith is asking, what are some of your long-term professional goals?
Oh, I don't know. So, you know, I love what I'm doing now. And I know with getting a PhD, I'll be able to, you know, just have that to be able to do more. I really want to write more curriculum and do some more curriculum implementation, and making sure that curriculum is culturally relevant and in terms of health and fitness and wellness, because a lot of nutrition education is very like this very American way of eating, in which is with different cultures, it's not the same. And so how can we adapt these guidelines and, you know, how we define health, for, you know, variety of cultures. So that's kind of my long-term of like what I want to be able to do, is provide like culturally relevant nutrition, physical fitness education to, you know, everyone in some way.
Nutrition is so important in today's world. So absolutely. Thank you for that. Our next question comes from another one of our graduate assistants. The graduate assistants are excited today. This one comes from Larissa. And Larissa is actually an international student. She's from Brazil. And she would like to know, how do you think that gender equality is higher here in the U.S. compared to other countries?
Well, it would depend on the country. I do think that America is more progressive in ways that